Hi, everybody. Welcome to Am I the Asshole podcast. I'm Danny Vega, joined by my lovely co-host, Sara, the prestigious to be Sara.
God.
You were telling me you're applying to various schools. Tell the listeners who you may become in the future. I think you will become this Sara.
I don't know what you mean by that wording, but I'm applying to Columbia, NYU, and CUNY journalism grad program. So we'll see how
Less
it
of a
goes.
woo there.
What?
Less of a woo there. Let's be honest. Columbia woo, NYU woo, CUNY, you go, well, good for you.
Yeah. My dad had a similar reaction. But I don't know. I'm just like, I can't, who knows? Like, I have no idea if I would get into like any of those schools because, well, first of all, I haven't taken the GRE, but they say you don't need it, but I don't know if that's like a bad look.
But you don't need it. Oh, wow.
No, you don't need it anymore. Otherwise, like, this would not be possible for me right now. I don't know. The thing is, like, who knows what these companies are looking for? And honestly, like, I haven't, like, I graduated 7 years ago and, like, I haven't done anything academic. So, I mean, it's really just a complete crapshoot. Like, I would be more surprised if I got in, I think, than if I got like rejected or waitlisted or whatever.
Well, I think I think that's ridiculous. I think you have a tremendous amount of work, a great resume. You know, you've got a lot of experience of various kinds. Do I know anything about what I'm talking about? Emphatically, no. But I'm a fan. And I applaud you. And look, people, it's true what they say. Getting educated is a good idea. You know, you don't necessarily want to get in a ton of debt, etc. You can get in a real bind, but you know, you're in the right city. You have the right resume. I don't think you're going to be one of these people with a degree that costs them whatever, 100 grand, 200 grand. And then you can't leverage that into more career success. And I guess what I'm talking about, new Sara, is like NYT Sara, Wall Street Journal Sara. I don't know where this could go, but I'm hyped for it.
Exactly. You never know. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I at least know exactly what I would want to do with a degree, like if I were to get it. And I've made that pretty clear in like my essays so far. So we'll see.
Well, and what is that? Well, hit us with the juice then.
I don't want to talk about it right now, but I'll tell you off the air.
Wow, people, you can't even get that info on our Patreon. That's how exclusive. You know, Sara, she's not quite like me. I'm an open book, and let me tell you, people, I don't have a lot going on. I bought a cactus. I have a cactus now. That's my little throwback to Arizona.
That's cute.
And I don't know. I am having thoughts about, you know, women and stuff like that. But I am really, I guess I'm kind of in this weird phase of like, I do feel lonely. Cause like, all right, so I feel weird going to comedy shows, and Sara, I gotta admit that you've had an influence on me because I know that you don't want to go and you're very skeeved out and
paranoid. But yes, thank you.
And look, and I think it's smart to err on the side of caution here. And I'm on my Insta and I'm seeing comics at indoor shows that are like basically able to exist. Yes, due to loopholes.
No.
And I'm like kind of beating myself up because I'm like, oh, I should be hustling. I should be out there. And then I'm kind of like, okay, but like legit, the numbers are going higher every day. Like, you know, I don't want to be part of that. I got roommates. I'd be liable. Like and it's just kind of this thing I've been and then on top of that, I'm very lonely. There's nothing to do. So, but I am trying to channel that. I'm taking that, you know, malaise. I'm exercising more than I've ever exercised. I'm reading, which has been a joy.
Yes,
I am reading
books.
Minimum an hour of a day. And I'll tell you guys, I actually read a book. It's considered a classic in the field. So this has been a tremendous realization for me, is that I am a codependent, and I didn't know really what that meant before. I thought a codependent was more someone who's in a relationship with an alcoholic. I knew that it had a meaning outside of that, but I didn't really know how sort of ubiquitous codependents are. Someone who's kind of consistently giving into their relationships more than they're getting. I guess that's really the most kind of
That's what it is?
Well, there's like a million kind of, you know, amorphous symptoms of it. Like another symptom is sort of like apologizing too much, worrying about what others think about you constantly, worrying about others' emotions constantly, you know, going all in on relationships, which is something that I definitely do. Like I always have a best friend. And then if I have a girlfriend, that's my best friend. And there's always this kind of person in my life who is the majority of my emotions. And I've kind of realized that's a toxic pattern. And so I read this classic. It's considered like an AA classic. It's called Codependent No More. And it is very gaudy, which I know some people don't like that about AA or whatever, but I don't like, I'm an atheist, but I don't care. It's like, it's not obnoxious at all to me. I think it's very well written and yeah, it's just
God-y. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
gaudy,
I thought you meant
like
gaudy,
super gaudy.
like, tacky. And I was like, huh?
No, Goddy, gaudy, like mad gaudy
yes,
and
the
stuff.
word
Like the
that we all
Bible
know.
is so gaudy. Oh my God, the Bible, every other thing is like, God, we get it. We get it. But
What's so great about that guy?
what's so great about him? And what has he been doing, by the way? I don't hear he's not putting out any new content. You know,
Yeah,
we're
that's
tired.
true.
We're tired of the blue sky and the ostriches and the beautiful children. Give us something new, God. We are bored.
No, don't say that. We've gotten a lot of new stuff in 2020. We don't need any more.
Yeah. The coronavirus. Well, the coronavirus, I see it very much as a remix. It's like we've been here before. It's kind of like
I mean,
cold.
that's like Old Testament God. Like he's just fucking vengeful.
Yeah,
and, like
that's
smiting
true.
people.
A plague. So anyway, Codependent No More. I guess what I'm, really pulling away, and if anybody is kind of resonating with any of this, I think the big thing is, kind of having self-worth and how to build my self-worth. And, there's a lot of ways to do that, which are relatively straightforward, which is one is just like, speaking, like working on positive self-talk, which I think I've talked a little bit about before, but it's doing things like, if you fuck something up and you make a mistake, you don't let yourself, oh, I'm such an idiot. You go, oh, that was an idiotic thing to do. Or that was a bad thing to do, but you don't kind of come for yourself and be like, I'm a bad person, I'm an idiot, blah. So there's like a lot of little things like that. I do like little affirmations where I tell myself I'm proud of myself, and I'm doing all these things, Sarah. And then I started reading this other book, and this shit blew my damn mind because I was kind of able to link these things. This book is about the brain and how it works. And I love it. Kind of uses this central metaphor of consciousness. So your active thoughts and perceptions is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what that is a newspaper. And yeah, that's a newspaper, right? So visualize a newspaper. And essentially your consciousness really just consists of the headlines. Because, you can really only think about so much at once. And so if you think of a thought, it's really more like a headline, right? Like there's more to that thought. Your unconscious and your subconscious kind of form that thought that emerges from, the depths. But you're really just kind of getting the headline information, which might be something negative, like I hate myself or whatever toxic shit you're thinking. And so that metaphor kind of helped me realize, like, I'm slowly kind of filling up my newspaper with like positive concepts about myself. And it takes time, but I have noticed a slow kind of transition to where I'm like, oh, wow, I really don't think like I hate myself regularly. And that's been good.
I think that is good. And I'm sorry that you were hating yourself regularly.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's really a pernicious thing. I think it's a very common thing where people put more into a relationship than they get. And a big concept in Codependent No More is detachment, just letting go. And also a thing, and it sounds a little bit like cold, but I do think it's wise to at least fit it into your head, right? Because we talk a lot about on this pod, don't be black and white. I think a lot of people go, oh, you should always help people, right? Be selfless.
No.
And I think, yeah, right? Like, I didn't know that. No way. And it's like a big concept in this book is like, no, definitely don't be selfless, because what will happen is you'll play the role of a rescuer, and then you'll kind of feel like this person is indebted to you, and you'll be angry when they don't pay that debt. And so you'll become the victim. And then when you switch to the victim, then they'll be angry at you. And guess what? You're a codependent. So you'll switch right back and be like, oh, let me rescue them from their anger.
God.
And then you'll end up apologizing after putting too much in.
That sounds like a nightmare. I was just thinking because like you'll get burnt out and you can't like help other people at the expense of yourself, but that makes sense too.
Well, that's what the codependent does. No, that's exactly the same. That's exactly the same thing. You put in all this energy into other people, and you're sort of perpetually kind of drowning trying to meet others' needs. And here's the thing is that yes, there is a time and a place to help people, of course. But generally speaking, people need to help themselves, right? And that's where you get in this bind where you're kind of creating all these little debts, and then you're just getting angry when people don't pay off their little emotional or whatever kind of debts they are to you.
I feel like I need to borrow this book.
Sarah, I gladly buy it for you. I have to admit, I did think of you at a few points during this book.
Yeah, I would like to read it. I've truly never thought of myself as codependent, especially because I'm like never in relationships.
Right.
But when we hang out next, we'll do a gravity blanket and book exchange.
Well, it is a Kindle book, but I'll
Oh.
gladly buy you the book in paper. In fact, I will gladly do that right after this. I'll Amazon it over. And yeah, Sarah's giving me a gravity blanket, guys. She has an extra gravity blanket. Can you imagine? I'm pretty excited for this.
Living the life, the height of luxury.
Anyways, guys, if you want to talk about any of this stuff, if you're codependent or you're even curious or whatever, be sure to hit me up on an Insta DM or anything. I'd love to chat more about it. Please rate, review, and subscribe. You know what to do. It only takes a few seconds. We really appreciate it. I mean, I can't say enough about this podcast. Like, this has helped my life so much, especially in these trying Corona times. So if it's helped you, we'd love it if you could help us, spread our message to more people. What is our message? I'm a codependent. That's the message today.
Just tweet that and tag Danny.
All right. Speaking of, we have a new Patreon. Ariel, thank you for joining us. The Judge Judy's. Guys, we do have a Patreon. Sarah and I now do weekly bonus apps. I try to drop some juice on there, some wisdom, opening it up. I don't know if Sarah's going to tell her secrets about what she wants her career to be, but probably not. But we're working on it. I'm trying to get her to open up more, but it's a struggle. Anyways, you guys are awesome. Let's do a little bit of Guess the Verdict. AITA. For not letting my friend live in my spare room.
I would say NTA.
That is correct.
Woo.
That is, I knew that I don't feel great about getting you with these. They're not terribly tricky. There's a very high amount of NTAs in Am I the Asshole? Anyway, here's the tale. So many. A lot of validation posts. I'm sick of it. Anyway. OP basically offered Bill, this friend of theirs, who he's a supermarket worker and he lived with his mom. And OP was like 25 when he was offering this, right? So he was like, Bill, you ever need a place to crash, bud? You're good. And OP 5-6 years later actually inherits a lot of money, inherits a fat, stack. And Bill, I guess, heard and reached out because Bill was in some trying ass times, who isn't these days.
Right.
And OP said, ooh, no, can't really offer you a spare room anymore. I've got a girlfriend and my goddaughter likes to spend the night here. Bill
also, have they spoken?
I think they were speaking.
Okay.
But yeah, this had not been offered since. But Bill was very hurt and offended since he felt this old offer was rescinded. Top comment, SSH16 writes NTA, sounded like he just banked the idea that he'd always have the option of living with you if things got bleak. They likely are, but life has also moved on, so you're not in the position to make the same offer. And SSH also kind of said, like, I think you can really spell this out for him and say, like, hey, I do care about you and I want to be friends. I can't offer that anymore. So once you get over, your kind of pain here, feel free to reach out and we can still be friends. And I thought that was a message worth repeating.
That's like a little ridiculous, but AITA for giving an unwanted dog back to the breeder.
Interesting. Well, it's an unwanted dog and they gave it back to a breeder. Why would it be unwanted? That's so weird. Yet, I don't know, returning it to the source doesn't seem like an asshole move. It's weird because it's a dog, so you bond with it. Nonetheless, when I think about the breeder's kind of the original owner, and I think of when we've gone down that path before, I'm gonna have to go NTA. Oh, why would I go NAH? I'm gonna go NAH. It's riskier, but I'm gonna do it.
No, the risks didn't pay off. You were right the first time.
Ah, God.
You hate to see it. So here's the deal. Opie and his girlfriend agreed on getting a specific cat from a nearby shelter. The girlfriend goes to pick up the cat and then just does a complete 180 and ends up with a Siberian Husky puppy from a breeder instead.
Best OP 180 ever.
It's not even like a 180. It's like, I don't even know.
720.
It's like a complete detour on the moon.
Sure. Actually, wait, a 720 is 2 loops. So that's actually not 900. It's a 900. There we go.
There we go. So the OP contacts the breeder who offers a refund to take the dog back. OP says, keep the money because the girlfriend deserved it. The top comment was, you did the right thing. How dare she take a puppy into a situation for those reasons? NTA.
Wait, I got lost. Why was it wrong that she got the husky besides they didn't
Because
agree
they
on the
never
husky?
wanted it or like agreed upon it.
So she just got like swept up in the moment?
I don't know. He didn't really explain. I don't think you just randomly end up with a puppy from a breeder when you're on the way to the shelter.
Right.
I suspect that she was planning this bait and switch for a while, but the OP didn't go into it.
I don't know. I've got some qualms here. I mean, first of all, a Siberian husky, that is a pet. You know, that is an animal. That is a majestic creature. And then for OP to make her eat the money and not take the refund, I mean, people, I'm not really on board for this. I kind of think YTA on this. This is madness.
OP is definitely not the asshole for returning the dog. We could put it in the group.
But the money
was the one part where I was like, I don't know, but so maybe I'll put it in the group.
Put it in the group. AITA for terrorizing my roommates into cleaning up their crap.
What? How could you be the asshole for that? I do like the word terrorizing, but I feel like it's just for dramatic effect. So I'm going to go with NTA.
I knew you were going to get both of these. I looked so hard and I just could not find anything that wasn't NTA that we hadn't done before. Ugh. So guys, can we please be worse assholes and post on the subreddit for God's sake?
People also need to stop downvoting assholes on the subreddit.
Perpetual problem. So the roomies are criminal, Sarah. I mean, I was reading this and getting heated.
Oh my God.
These crazy. All right. The least of their charges is that they leave their clothes in the washer, but they do it regularly. So that's already like, okay, what's going on, guys? These absolute criminals leave rotting food in the fridge and sink.
What?
Again, to me, this is like maybe like, you know, felony 2. But then we get to this beat. They throw their garbage in the backyard. And that's where I was like, SWAT these roommates. What is that?
That's nuts.
Throwing garbage in the backyard? Who does that?
Animals.
What is that? I will sick a Siberian husky on you, dog.
That is anarchy.
Pure anarchy. So apparently the roommates' Achilles heels, they're both terrified of rats.
What?
So OP
you
and
can't be disgusting and terrified of rats. Like, where do you think they come from?
I got to admit, this did set off my fake radar a little bit. Okay. But it's a fun
Did OP
story.
Get a pet rat and like unleash it?
It's probably more ridiculous. OP gets a fake rat, which he describes as a faux rat, which it's like, okay, I think we could just go fake on a
dude,
rat.
It's a stuffed rat or a rubber rat.
Yeah,
like,
it's not faux fur. It's a fake rat. Let's come back to earth. He basically sets up the rat on a string and basically makes them think that there's multiple rats in the house and freaks them out. And then, of course, in classic, almost sitcom-esque fashion, within an hour, the house was cleaner than a whistle, blah, blah, blah. Top comment, that's a harmless prank as far as I'm concerned and more than a fair trade for making you live in filth. Interestingly, the initial response was NAH, but then Princess Zelda, Princess Zelda herself. I know, he had to switch it. He said they're assholes for creating the situation in the first place. And I agree, they have multiple charges against them. So Sarah, you've got 2 and I've got 0. Here we go.
Okay, AITA for not caring that my daughter is trans.
For not caring that my daughter is trans. God damn it, I can't. I don't want to get blown out here. Well, not caring? Well, isn't not caring good? I feel like I'm falling into a trap. I'm going to go. Oh no. Okay, I'm going to go NTA.
You're close.
I almost said NAH again, but
it is NAH this time.
Are you kidding me? God, I'm striking out today, people.
Okay, so basically the daughter comes out and the family's response is an anticlimactic, okay, cool. And then the daughter was upset, essentially. The top comment said, NAH, you gave a natural reaction, one of acceptance. It was a big moment for her that had been building for quite some time, and she didn't get the reaction she had been expecting. Both your feelings are valid. So that was that. Yeah,
I guess I do feel, because we just did a situation like this. I don't know if it was on the bonus or not, but I sort of feel like, look, if someone wants a little party, what does it take? Get some pizza, get some hats.
I think it's more like it's, and I'm not speaking from experience, obviously, but I also did just watch Happiest Season yesterday, and they pretty much talked about this exactly, where it's just like, you have, it's like you have a lot of pent up emotions, and I imagine there's a lot of anticipation of the conversation going one way or another, whether that's like worst case scenario, best case scenario. And then when it falls somewhere like less on the like big reaction side, it can feel like there's a lot of displaced emotion. You're like, oh, so I can understand how that would feel like anticlimactic.
Yeah, I guess when I'm thinking in terms of my kids, if I were to sort of approach this, from an armchair parent philosophy, I would say, well, look, it's obviously harder to be gay or trans or any myriad of these sort of situations. It's harder than straight, and so they've sort of had to deal with that, and then had to deal with the pressure of holding it and the ambiguity of whether it would be accepted. Da 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 da. Takes
Yeah, it's
really
scary.
not. What's that?
I said, yeah, it's like scary.
Yeah, it's scary. So it's kind of like, it does feel like a thing to celebrate in a sense, because you're sort of applauding them for, having the courage to go against the thing that has classically been very stigmatized, and the result of a lot of bigotry and hatred. And, I don't understand why that would be, too much to ask. I guess.
I mean, I think everyone's different. So, whereas one person might want a big reaction, someone else might not. That's why I think NAH is like the perfect verdict, because I mean, as long as like ultimately everyone's being accepting, that's great. And then, just continue to do that and talk and see if they want any sort of like bigger moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at. Just to talk and see and feel them out. I mean, maybe I'm reaching a little bit here, but another concept I've kind of latched on my little self-development journey is that the most rewarding thing to people is actually when we achieve something. There's a satisfaction that comes with achievement, whatever it may be, as opposed to whatever else you think will make you happy. Relationships, right? Like codependents kind of seek relationships and they think that will make them happy, but it's actually not. It's achievement that makes us happy. And that can mean anything, by the way. That doesn't mean conventional success. It means whatever you consider to be an achievement of sorts. So I guess in that sense, I think is somebody kind of coming out with their identity and achievement. But I feel like it can be, because you are overcoming a lot of, perceived and actual like stigma, and that's not easy.
Definitely not easy. In any case, I feel like I agree with that verdict.
I agree with the verdict as well. Sarah won guess the verdict 2-0. I mean, that was a blowout. That hurt. You wanted that. I don't know what achievement is exactly, but that is the opposite of achievement. That was not
a big
good.
One.
Guys, we'd really appreciate it. I know I already said this, but please rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. It doesn't take too long. We've got the Patreon. We love a new Patreon. We got the call-in show. We love connecting with the listeners. Sometimes we just talk, by the way. I know some of you aren't necessarily like, oh, I want to be broadcast. Some of you just want to chat with Sarah and I, which is so cute. Let me just say, some people go, I can't believe I'm really talking to you guys. And I'm like, well, I can.
I'm like, little do you know, like, we are not important.
Yeah, I have nothing going on. I will like keep you on the line and talk to you, please. I'm going to cry after this. No, I'm crying. Well, no, I cried today. I'm still crying. I was about to say, I'm not crying. No, I'm still totally crying. But anyway, guys, the Patreon is really cool. We do weekly bonus episodes. We got a ton of fun on there. We'd love it if you join us. Patreon.com/AITA-POD. Guys, we got one heck of an app for you today. Our second story of the day, AITA for telling my family that if they want Thanksgiving, they'll have to get off their asses and plan it. But first, AITA for not wanting my half-brother to have the same name as me. This is a weird question, but for some reason, it's turned into a whole issue. When I, 16M, was born, my parents named me Giuseppe, after my grandpa on my mom's side. And my parents divorced when I was 5, but my mom got sick when I was 12 and passed away a year later. So I had to live full-time with my dad. 2 years ago, my dad started dating Kaylee until they got married. I'm not close with Kaylee, but that's not because we don't like each other. We just don't talk a lot, and I'm always staying with my grandma or uncle on my mom's side when I'm not at my dad's. They found out they're pregnant months ago and also learned it's a boy. Ever since, Kaylee keeps saying she also wants her son to be named Giuseppe because she likes the name so much and how it sounds. Giuseppe, again, if anyone missed how it sounds. I straight up told her that's my name. It'd be weird having my half-bro having the exact same name as me. Kaylee said it wasn't weird and I don't own the name, so I can't say it's mine.
Okay.
She seemed really mad that I called it weird and said I should get used to it because that's the name they're deciding on. My dad backed her up at first, but we talked a little more. I just told him it didn't feel right for us two to have the exact same name, and maybe that could be a middle name or something. He talked to Kaylee about changing it to a middle, so the first could be something else. She just got more mad. Now she says I'm ruining this whole experience by making a big deal over a name.
What?
My dad's in the middle. He's willing to back me up and not let Kaylee name their baby that, but says I should just let it go. My uncle, dad's brother, and some of my friends agree it's weird, but Kaylee's being super cold, so IDK, if I'm wrong here, AITA.
Okay, this is bizarre. This is so bizarre. This is not like when my younger cousin was born and her mom wanted to name her Sara, the most common name in the universe, and she asked me if it was fine, and I said it was fine. This is like a very specific name.
Giuseppe, yeah, I mean it's not unheard of. I've heard of it.
It's not unheard of, but
yeah,
it's not like
common.
I mean, it's a common Italian name, but
yeah, that was the exact thought I had. Is how common is this name in Italy?
Common. It's like Joseph, essentially. It is. But then again, like in America, it's not super duper common to like name someone like an Italian name, a French name, like any name in like another language. It's not that common. And and we're not talking about a cousin. We're talking about a step brother, half brother, whatever.
This is a half brother because his mom passed away and then dad married Kaylee. Am I understanding that right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's
This is so bizarre. And like, okay, Kaylee, did she even know the grandpa? Like, what is her connection to this name? This feels like a very weird troll.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is there really is I think what's happened psychologically with Kaylee is that she is viewing Giuseppe 1 as part of a different family, and that's the only way she can sort of internalize this. So she's kind of crafted in her head a narrative where like, oh, well, you know, this Giuseppe is 16, so he's basically out of the house. You know what I mean? And then now Kaylee is right about to have this new child. So whatever, there's a 2-year kind of double Giuseppe overlap, but
it's so weird too because it's like you like the way the name sounds because you call me it all the time. Like it's not some name that you just like randomly heard in a movie.
Yeah, I mean it's sheer madness. I mean it's clearly not okay. And I think conceptually what she's kind of up to here is this kind of dual family thing. And what she doesn't realize is that like, you know, functionally speaking, if mom is passed and then she's kind of replacing OP's mom, which I'm guessing she hasn't really internalized at all or taking any responsibility for. Dad sounds like a pushover, very weak. He's kind of like, well, you know. So it's like he's not really like appreciating the fact that, first of all, this is half his decision. So his answer should simply be no, that's not appropriate. Because like, look, functionally speaking, a half brother's a brother. So this is absolutely bizarre, completely inappropriate. And I will further come down on Kaylee and say, I don't like the way she fights. Okay. I think we've talked a lot about how to fight and how to have a conflict on this pod. It's a topic I can always happily revisit. And I see a very, very dirty move here. Kaylee claims that when proposed a suggestion that she could change it to a middle name, she says, she said that OP is ruining this whole experience by making a big deal over a name. Oh, really? Oh, really,
like, you're
Kaylee?
making a big deal over a name.
Well, yeah, but that's not the part I'm going for.
No. She's I'm like going deflecting.
No, that's not quite it. I would describe this as catastrophizing. In fact, what she's doing is trying to suggest that Giuseppe's mere suggestion that it's inappropriate to do a double name, she is trying to round that up into saying that, oh, well, he's ruining the whole experience. The magic of childbirth is ruined just because you want the baby to have a different name, which is completely ridiculous and a form of fighting, very, very dirty. And I don't like it. And I don't like her. Cody M agrees with me. Well, maybe. He says NTA, that's effing weird. Rebecca J backing him up. NTA, that's totally weird. Watch, she's going to change her name to Giuseppe too. Funny.
Oh yeah, let's all do it.
I like it.
I also did have a weird thought where I was kind of wondering if like, because OP mentions that he's not close with Kaylee. So like, what if this was some weird way to try to like, for her to try to like become close to him. It just like, I don't know. That was a weird conspiracy theory I had.
Wow, it's rare for you to throw out a wild one. Yeah, I'm not really on board for that, but it's, it's out there. It's a theory.
Or like, yeah, or like trying to replace. Okay, you know what? I won't continue.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Sarah, I'm a fan, but I guess for me, that's sort of like the 9/11 conspiracy theories that are like 9/11 never even happened. It's sort of like, okay, well, I don't know how we can get there, but it's a theory. It's out there.
Well, thank you for putting me on the same level as 9/11 deniers, which I didn't actually know was a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, there's 7
I thought the
people
conspiracy
online.
was just that like the government did it. Anyway.
Hollow R says, NTA, personally, I find that really weird. I'm surprised your dad agreed to it at first.
Yeah, what the hell? Dad?
Yeah,
You're like, this is my son. Like, what?
Exactly. And that is why, and I think you're more, understanding of this, Sarah. Is this an ESH if I'm coming for dad too, or are they considered kind of one unit?
I think they're considered one side and like OP is the other side. To me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a very basic thing to not want to have the same name as your brother. I don't think a half brother is substantially different from that, considering you share one parent. I think dad is a worm, and I think this is inappropriate. What's that?
Okay, I don't know if I need to come that hard for the dad because he did come around, even though he never should have gone for it in the first place. But
no, he didn't really come around. Asshole. He did this half-ass thing of like, oh, I'm willing to back you up. Are you? So you're going to keep... How many times does he need to tell you that this is what he wants? And how thin is your spine and your mind where you are not able to recognize that any person would find this objectionable? He is a worm. He is a worm, and he lives in the dirt, and he eats, he eats feces. It's not okay. AITA for not wanting my half-brother to have the same name as me. I think we agree here. NTA and Kaylee and dad are the asshole.
Big time.
Good. Guys, please rate, review, and subscribe.
Good. What do you mean? I wasn't not agreeing.
What's that? I know, but you were kind of like...
you said good, as if I had like let on that I thought that was totally chill. I didn't do that.
I thought you were gonna do that thing of like, well, you're being too mean to the dad. He's not that bad. And no.
I mean, you do go in on the parents constantly, but like... He's definitely the asshole.
Because a lot of
I'm not going to call him a shit-eating worm. It's like, all right.
Well, okay, you're right. All right. He's an apple. I retract that. He is an apple-eating worm, an old rotting apple-eating worm, not a shit-eating worm, which, as we know, is much less I have no idea how worms work. Guys, listen. You are not a worm. You are a powerful, praying mantis. And we would appreciate if you rate, review, and subscribe. I'm losing my mind. Rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, on Spotify, on whatever listening platform, MySpace you use. Please join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. We love the call-in. We love to talk to you. Bonus episodes. You get it. AITA for telling my fam that if they want Thanksgiving, they'll have to get off their asses and plan it. Usually, for tea giving, we head out to see family. Someone else always hosts. We typically help sponsor the host by paying for cleanup, etc. Our home is just too small to host the 30-plus folks who typically show up through the day. Wow, this is a family. This year, that's obviously not happening. Other than us talking about not doing the huge, Thanksgiving didn't come up until yesterday. Well, I don't know what that means, but I'm guessing close to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, this was posted pretty close to Thanksgiving.
Okay. My kids have the week off from online school, and I was doing a puzzle with them before dinner when my husband walks in after work and says, "So did we get a turkey?"
Oh boy.
The image of OP like kind of delicately trying to place a puzzle piece, like really trying to get in there and land it. And he's just like, so bursting through the door, do we get a turkey? I looked at him and said, well, I know I didn't. Did you? He stared at me blankly and said, no, what do you mean? Do we need to get one still? Is it being delivered? I shrugged and said, I don't know nothing about no turkey.
Oh boy.
The kids and he looked so confused. So I helped them along and said, I didn't buy anything. I didn't plan anything. No one said anything to me about Thanksgiving. Nobody offered to help meal plan, cook anything, do anything. He blew up yelling at me about how I should have obviously known. I said, why? I've never planned or made a Thanksgiving dinner in my life. The most I've done is help clean up or maybe peel a potato. I asked him, why did he plan anything? Why didn't the kids plan anything? Why is everyone waiting until the last minute and dumping it on me? He sputtered and stormed off to his quote unquote office. Weird. Okay, that's a weird neg there because they put office in quotes, and left me with the kids. We all had dinner. The kids cleaned up and I was relaxing with some wine and a book after they all went to bed. My husband tore into me about he can't believe I left this all to the last minute. Now there will be no Thanksgiving. How could I know? Be heartbroken to do this to the kids?
Not be heartbroken?
How could I not be heartbroken to do this to the kids? So I just looked at him and said, why didn't you plan? Why did you wait to the last minute to ask? He told me I was being an effing B word.
No.
Whoa, ugly. For no reason and stomped off to go to sleep in his office. He left without saying a word this morning. I followed up with my kids and asked them if they wanted Thanksgiving. They said they didn't care because the food isn't that good most of the time anyway.
That's a real take.
Wow, this fam. Before you ask, yep, I work as well. We split chores, but there's no hard line. I do some, he does some. We both cook and the oldest cooks as well. I just don't get why Thanksgiving is on my plate. Why? Just because I'm a woman? LMAO, F that, AITA.
Oh, wow. The passive aggression is unlike anything I've seen in a while from this sub.
Yeah.
I kind of love it, but like, whoa.
I mean, this is really, I think OP kind of I don't know. I think she called it out because I think that is where this lived in
yeah, completely.
husband's head. I really think that that's why, because it sounds like even, by OP's own description here, it sounds like they have a pretty equitable marriage. That's
right.
I'm actually reading
except for him calling her a fucking bitch, but like
right.
In terms of division of labor or whatever.
Yes, I mean, I'm trying to give him the B of the D here. He's obviously kind of having a thing right now. But as far as I read into this, we both cook, we both split chores. I don't see that this husband is like inherently a piece of shit. What I see is a person who really has this deep-seated assumption, and let's be fair about how this works, because as I go on my self-development journey, we are all kind of chock full of these little things that we grew up with, and without examining our past, we are doomed to repeat these patterns, and that's what I think this is made of, right? Like there's a little program in this guy's head where his mommy made Thanksgiving dinner every year for like 30, 40 freaking years or whatever, 20 years while he was growing up with the folks. And that little part of his brain is sort of unable to detach from the fact that like, well, that's not how this relationship works.
Yeah, I think it's just like, I don't want to say lazy, but kind of lazy, because like they always go to someone else's Thanksgiving. So when that's not a thing, he just assumes she's going to do it.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that obviously there is really no precedent in this relationship for her to make the food. So yeah. I do think, and I think also his level of anger and kind of ignorance and emotionality, and look, it's an emotional time, and that's why I'm so lonely, because I'm not with my folks, and it's the holidays, and it's like shit, I'm alone, like running around a track, like trying to feel anything good. And these are emotionally charged times. We have, FOMO because we're used to spending this time with our family and having a turkey or whatever it may be. And so I do think, and maybe I am being a bit too easy on OP. Obviously, yeah. I think it's fucked up that he called her an effing B. That is completely unacceptable. But I see in him a childlike tantruming, which, by the way, she does not say is normal for him, so, and that is what I see here. And maybe I am playing a little bit Freud ball here, but I see that this is a inner child having a childish reaction, because that's what this little kid expected mommy to make the turkey. Sarah L writes, NTA, and throw out the whole goddamn husband. Was that you, Sarah L?
No, it wasn't me.
Whisper M says ESH for assuming someone else was going to take care of it.
Well, the thing is, like, she didn't. They both sort of did that, but he assumed, and she just decided to be passive aggressive and like let him live in that assumption without ever talking to her about it.
I would push back there. I don't characterize, I really have no qualms with anything OP did. She did not foresee, I don't think she foresaw that the family would expect her to do this. Why would she? They have a way of doing it, and they always go somewhere to do it.
I think the thing is, like, it's Thanksgiving coming up, and it's not like she forgot or anything like that. Like, the thought had probably occurred to her. And he clearly was thinking about it, thinking she would do it. At no point did she decide to be like, hey, by the way, what are we doing about Thanksgiving? And I'm not saying that's bad, because, like,
okay,
that's not her job necessarily. Like, it's equally their jobs. But I don't think that she assumed that he would do it.
No, I think she thought
he assumed she would do it, and she was like, well, I'm not going to do it unless someone asks me or brings it up.
Well, yeah. Well, she also, also it's sort of like my problem here is not that they don't have a Thanksgiving planned, right? Like, look, what did I do for Thanksgiving? I ordered takeout. So this is not an insurmountable problem. They would have had a plenty fine dinner on Thanksgiving. The problem is the emotionality that was thrown at her. And that's why I don't like you characterizing her behavior as passive aggressive. I think it was merely passive. She was like, whatever, we'll figure it out. And she was right. They could have easily figured it out. But husband had a meltdown. Peggy F, NTA, and I'll be damned if my so-called husband is calling me an effing B over some shit like this. I agree with that. Wildly
super
inappropriate,
unacceptable,
abusive, unacceptable, all those things. Ashley K, ESH, do you not have conversations in your house? OP's husband is the asshole for assuming that OP would plan, and OP is the asshole for assuming they wouldn't do anything for the holiday without talking to the family. Why? Why?
Nah.
Why is that her job when they both cook and it's an equitable thing? And are the how old are the kids? How old are these freaking kids?
I don't know. I don't know if it says.
That would be the only way for me to sort of come for her a little bit, because I would be like, yo, your kiddos. But again, I would say, I would say the same thing. I would say, who's to say? She probably just thought, whatever, we'll order in or whatever. I'll cook up. The kids love my meatloaf. It's like, I don't think that that it's like a sin on her. I just don't.
No, because she doesn't usually cook Thanksgiving. If she did, it would possibly be another story. But she doesn't. So why would she all of a sudden do something she never does?
Exactly. There would be a reasonable precedent and expectation for the kids and for dad to be like, well, you're at least handling it, and I would understand that. I still would not justify the emotionality, and obviously the effing B is completely inappropriate. Jordan
No way, but he wouldn't be completely out of line for making that assumption if theoretically she was the one cooking for Thanksgiving every year, but she's not. So fuck that.
Right. Jordan M writes, I disagree with ESH. Your husband is being the asshole and you did nothing wrong, in my opinion. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so why would it automatically be assumed that Thanksgiving plans are going on like normal? If it was a priority to him to have a traditional dinner in your home, which doesn't even normally happen, he should have spoken up and made plans with you. Not the asshole he is. Definitely lining up with you, Jordan M. I'm feeling those vibes, my friend. Nico S, NTA, he had days to ask about it if it was important to him. Besides, it's a BS holiday to celebrate colonialism. So instead, maybe just teach your kids about the Three Sisters and have some takeout. Okay. All right. Well,
you can do both of those things.
Yeah, I don't.
You can also teach your kids, whatever. It's fine.
Well, yes, teach your kids, but I don't like when people do that kind of zoom out thing of like, oh, well, this never mattered to begin with because the days. Well, look, I'm for educating people and thinking about the origins of our traditions, but there is an expectation, and it's ultimately, even though it is a day,
because you could do that with anything. I don't know, if you let's say the cashier at the store is rude to me or something like that, and you could be like, YTA for participating in capitalism, which is exploitative, and you could just zoom out all the way into the galaxy if we want to play that game.
Right. It gets to a point where it's like, okay, what's really the relevance here? Raina M says, I feel like you just don't care about this holiday and neglected to see your husband does care. Oh my God, I'm getting angry. This is internalized sexism or something. Well, I'm assuming
it is internalized. I think misogyny.
There we go. Oh, I get where you're coming from.
Man feeling matters and woman job to cater to man feeling at all times.
Exactly. Woman. And actually, Sarah, this is a thing in the codependent book. And I was thinking a lot about this is that, we right now, things have changed so much for women over the course of the last, 50, 30 years that you go, and in this book, I believe they say, don't cite me on it, but that a lot of women are codependent, and you go, well, yeah, culture forced women to be codependent.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Not you, but what does the book mean? Gee, I wonder why that came to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Women couldn't even, I think, get a credit card without their husband's signature.
Exactly.
Until the 70s.
Well, it's not an indictment. It's saying a lot of women live in this mindset because the mindset obviously of the 50s being the most stereotypical time where it's exactly what you just said, women cater to man. And it's shocker, that made a lot of women really upset because that's not an equitable relationship. And, you know, kind of the whole thing of being human is reciprocity and fairness. You know, monkeys can detect that shit. If you try to get a monkey to scam another monkey, they won't actually do it. There's studies that prove it. Anyway, I get where I forget what they did, but there's a monkey test they do where if they give a monkey 20 grapes and they give another monkey 1 grape, the monkey will share the grapes.
Aw.
They have a concept of fairness. Like, I actually think they're kind of dicks. They give them like 7 grapes. Like, they're like, well, I'm actually going to keep most of these, but you can, you know what I mean? Like,
Still better than what people would do.
yeah, people would be like, I earned these grapes, you piece of
Yes.
shit.
How dare you even ask? That's a handout. Like, all right.
Okay, quick monkey fact check. I had to look this up. So the actual study had the monkeys trading like objects with researchers. And when monkeys would see that the researchers were trading grapes, and then these same monkeys were offered cucumbers, which monkeys obviously prefer grapes, who doesn't? The monkeys would get angry. So they have a sense of fairness and they freaking love grapes. And that's the monkey facts, baby. Raina M goes on, I get where you're coming from, the whole why do you have to be responsible? But when in a relationship, it's each other's job to help as a team. Even if you did forget, why be so snarky? How is she being snarky, Raina?
She was being snarky, but I support.
Was she being snarky? What was her snark?
She was. She was like, well, I don't know. Did you get a turkey? I don't know nothing about no turkey. I didn't buy anything. I didn't plan anything. Like, she was being like,
okay.
Snarky.
But I would like to downgrade from snarky. I'll give you she was being a bit fresh.
Okay.
A word usually used for men. How about that? I'm reversing it, people.
Yeah, okay.
Raina M says, why not admit you forgot and instantly come together as a family to make it happen? Because that's fucking bullshit, Raina.
No. She did not forget. No.
She did not forget. She knew it was happening. It wasn't her job. It was both of their jobs or none of their jobs because this was a solvable problem. Okay. Husband is opposing his assumptions and his expectations. And by the way, why doesn't husband just solve the freaking problem? Huh? Nobody's even saying that. Go to the store. Go to the store and buy a turkey, you piece of shit.
Yeah, instead of like verbally abusing your wife.
Exactly. Oh, because that's it. I mean, you're right. That's what this is. This is I think it's a deep-seated belief because I am assuming that husband.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't just wake up one day and think it's his wife's job to do Thanksgiving dinner. Like,
exactly.
This comes from somewhere. It's obviously
it comes from somewhere deep, Sarah. That's why he's acting like a child. Megan L writes, this is the perfect example of the mental load carried by women. He just assumed you'd be the one to plan everything and a Thanksgiving would just appear before him. Hilarious. NTA. Agree with that. I think a huge component of sexism is these built-in expectations that come from culture and childhood and they're unexamined and we get pissed. I mean, look, I have to admit that this has happened to me. You know, I have left messes around my apartment and I get asked to clean them up and the rational side of me goes, yeah, it's totally 100% fair. But I have an emotion, which is like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. I'm like, why would I be angry? I know it's fair. They do it. So there's no injustice here. And I go, that's because when I was a kid, like my mom kind of cleaned shit up and did the dishes and shit. That's gotta be what that is. You know, and so that's built into us, some of us. Myrna F, NTA, he called you an effing B over that. Wow. Ludmilla S. So she made it abundantly clear she's never made a Thanksgiving dinner and y'all were just expecting her to pull it out her ass. Not everyone with a uterus knows the secrets of Betty Crocker. Hilarious.
I personally was born with the secrets of Betty Crocker instilled in my blood.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm special like that.
You are special. Doug T writes, the reason he keeps walking away from you is because he's wrong and he knows it. If I assume my wife is going to do it all and didn't need to discuss it, she would laugh her ass off at me, NTA. Doug, they clearly have a good relationship over there. Carrie M, NTA seriously called you an effing B. A lot of people getting hurt at that, guys. That's fighting very dirty. We need, you can't drop words like that. Pull yourself from the situation. Get some space.
Really bad.
Really, really toxic. Really, really bad. There's never an excuse to name call when you're a grown-ass adult. Give me a break. Raven W, NTA, and while your husband is really volatile and has anger issues, I personally would take the kids somewhere for Thanksgiving, even if it's just going through a drive-thru and eating in the car and leave his immature ass home to rant and sulk all he wants. I don't think we need to take a vengeful approach. I do believe that husband is a good person who's having a child tantrum, and I think he will be able to be reckoned with once he wakes up the next day. That's my hope. I hope.
I don't know. I hope. I think that taking the kids, if he's sulking on Thanksgiving, absolutely. To plan to do that now as like revenge, I think is just going to make this like into a bomb that's going to explode. Like, don't do it.
Of course. That is equally fighting dirty. That's a childish impulse. This is your husband. You know, if you're ready to get divorced and then you want to act like a child, I guess. But even so, it's like, you know, be the bigger human here, act like an adult. You know, there's no reason. Like sometimes people do have outsized emotional reactions. And the point there is to sober up yourself, take away the emotions and go, okay, let's try to cool them off and get them to understand because I care about this person and I want to make it work. So let's try and get through this together. Larson D writes, nope. NTA, it isn't your responsibility to handle something you have never handled before. Yep, agree with that. Sarah, you're about to say something?
If you're saying that like she needs to sober up and like have a mature conversation and like figure out his feelings, like that just seems like another example of like putting the load on her because she's the woman, whereas he had the outsized, completely fucked up response, so it's on him.
I do agree with that. I do agree. I think obviously it does fall on him. However, I think realistically, right, we all are going to fall into an outsized dramatic reaction at some point. You know, we are human. We have flaws. When you're married to someone, you commit to them. And I'm just making the point that like right now she is in a better emotional position. She's not the one throwing the tantrum. So what she should do is the opposite of what she should do is stoke the flames, right? And that's what this sort of vengeful kind of thinking is. It's petty, it's short-sighted. There's no reason to be like that. You know, you're right that she could just kind of wait for him to come around, but I think
That's what I would do.
yeah, I think you're right. Maybe that's the codependent in me saying like, well, she needs to figure out how to broker a thing. No, you're right. I mean, it's on him. It is on him.
Yeah.
Alana C, NTA. However, I'm detecting a little passive aggression on your part. You knew the holiday was imminent and could have mentioned it and come up with a plan together. You sure you didn't just fail to mention it in hopes of a fight? You're NTA for not wanting to do it all on your own, but a little bit TA for not attempting a compromise. What do you mean? She had no opportunity to compromise, Alana. Her husband was immediately throwing a hissy fit.
I mean, I think it's just that like in the lead up to Thanksgiving, she never decided to talk about it with her husband.
So she didn't.
Which was like, I also got the same passive aggressive read, which again doesn't bother me because sometimes you have to play that game of like, well, I'm going to see if it's important to you enough to bring that up. But it is kind of passive aggressive.
Why is it passive aggressive, Sarah? I feel like it's only passive aggressive in a world where you assume the woman is the one who handles these things. By that logic, he is also being passive aggressive by waiting so long to bring it up.
I'm not saying that he's not.
Okay. Well,
I'm not saying that he's not, but I'm saying that she is a little bit.
I don't agree with that characterization. Nano Cola writes, heavy NTA. Also, the way they handled this convo is absolutely how I would have. I'm sorry your husband has childlike temper tantrums. In fact, the only thing maybe I would say for this on OP's fault is that maybe having gauged the husband's emotionality, she could have taken a more proactive approach instead of being, as you characterize it, snarky, and as I said, it was fresh. And instead say, hey, I can sense you're very emotional about this. Why don't we give it some space and we'll talk about it when you've calmed down or something like that to try to avoid an escalation.
Did he even get the chant? Like,
no, I don't really think. I mean, I'm just saying.
Seems like he just kind of blew up and stormed out of the room. I'm also going to say that calling his tantrum childlike is an insult to children.
Nice.
Because when I got mad, I never once called my mom a fucking bitch. Oh my God, imagine.
I can't imagine that, you know. And you were one of 3 triplets. Can you imagine 3 little triplets singing that their mother is an effing B?
Singing. Yes, we had a coordinated choir group.
Well, you don't have to coordinate. You're triplets. You have all the same thoughts and desires at the same time. AITA.
You know, some people actually think that.
I know it. AITA for telling my family that if they want Thanksgiving, they'll have to get off their asses and plan it. I think Sarah and I kind of disagree on some very minor deets here, but we see eye to eye perfectly on the verdict here, which is NTA and the husband is.
Big time.
Guys, please rate, review, and subscribe. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. Now it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show, listener submissions. AITA for leaving a name off a card. I, 29F, in a friend group where everyone else is a guy, including my husband, had the idea to get a nice bottle of champagne for a friend outside this group. Whom's wedding?
Whom's wedding?
Can you spin that? Whom's
no, it's
wedding?
whose.
Whose wedding? Listener, what are you trying to do here? You ain't smarter than me, listener, all right? Whom's wedding, where we were all invited to, yet had to be postponed due to the pandemic. The guys liked the idea and wanted to get an even nicer bottle of champagne. Since we were splitting it 4 ways, my hubby and I planned to drop off the bottle on the original wedding date since the other 2 guys live out of state. I let them know I would include a card and to let me know if they had any special words to include. Oh well. George sends me his note and signs it Love, George, and Beth. That's his girlfriend. This came a little surprising to me because A, Beth did not contribute a share to pay for the bottle, and my husband and I each contributed our share separately. AITA if I leave Beth's name off the card.
Ooh,
that's
petty,
actually interesting.
Petty alert.
Yeah, it does strike me as a little petty because ultimately Beth is not part of the friend group, and that kind of seemed like the genesis of this mutual gift. you know, and you are part of the friend group and your husband is part of the friend group. So that's more the standard. I mean, yeah, sure. George is kind of like leveraging in, and technically, you know, people in this group are subsidizing Beth's share, but it's kind of like,
yeah, I think that's like OP's gripe with the situation is like, well, I guess it should really be split 5 ways, not 4 ways.
Right. And like personally, if I was in this group, I would not care about Beth's name squeezing in. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Makita D writes, I mean, I don't know about asshole, but you're deaf petty LMAO. I think it does come from a petty place. It's getting to a little bit like, you know, what? So
yeah, because then what are you going to do? Like have George Venmo everybody each like $3 or whatever?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
All right.
Ridiculous. Ashton W writes, I think the point OP is trying to make that it would have been more fair if the cost of the group gift was split 5 ways, especially since 2 of the original 4 contributors were husband and wife. Yeah, it would have been more fair, but like, I just think we're kind of falling into a zone where, first of all, you don't actually have a great argument because you yourself concede that this is about a friend group and it's a friend group gift. You know, so Beth isn't in the friend group. And then so really the charge here is a signature, you know, and like technically, I guess he is diluting the gift a bit with a 5th name. But like, come the fuck.
No,
I mean,
he's not.
What are you, a lawyer, OP? Relax. Good Christ. So he's not getting equity in the fucking company. Who gives a shit? Pamela C, YTA, how do you know she didn't contribute to George so he could afford his share? Well, that wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, because then if that were the case, then like OP and her husband then they would drop it down to a 1/3.
Right. Yen Triok S, yes, you'd be an asshole if George pays the share. Who gives a shit? Kira F, YTA, everyone in your friend group is a man except for you. No wonder you have no female friends.
Ooh.
Don't love that. What the fuck does that mean? Petty AF and unfriendly to boot. We all understand where you're coming from, but we all see how childish those actions would be. And no, it's not worth the drama.
I don't think it's worth the drama of like leaving her name off a card.
No, I think that would be monstrous. I think the only move, if you really felt strongly, and I would be like, listen, we have one life to live. Are you really going to sit here and tell George and then have to broker?
One life to live.
For the love of God, you're the one who's going to have to be the nexus of all these fucking transactions now to adjust.
Yeah, true. Now you got to be the one. Like I'm thinking OP organizes this entire gift. And now she's going to have to be like organizing the $3 Venmo charge or whatever it amounts to.
You're going to have to be freaking like a switchboard operator in the goddamn 20s. Click, 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 click on Venmo, sending like $2 back and forth between all these idiot friends of yours. And trust me, I know they are idiots. Raven W writes, YTA, if he wanted, they do idiotic things. They're not idiots. YTA, if he wanted Essa's name on the card, you should put it on. If you're so petty that you want money from everyone, you should have asked him to ask her to contribute before leaving her name off. Yeah, there's no way that leaving her name off.
But I don't think like I don't think she left Beth's name off on purpose. I think she didn't like consider them a package deal.
Right. Well, she's saying AITA if she left the name off. And I think she absolutely would be.
Yeah.
I think, look, guys, sometimes unfair things happen. I would describe this as an extremely insignificant unfairness. We are talking about George squeezing in his girlfriend's name into a 4-way gift, diluting it into a 5-way gift, which, trust me, the recipient of the gift, I guarantee their main reaction is going to be, yay, champagne from my friends. And that's roughly, if anything, I bet certain individuals of the friend group regret contributing because he knows that they might know that the friend is just going to drink the fucking champagne. And probably not thank anybody individually. Anyways, I think we agree. AITA for leaving a name off a card. I'm going to treat this as, would I be the asshole if you left the name off the card? Yes, you would be. YTA. Sarah, we agree?
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. That's the app. Please reach out if you have anything. We love comments. We love submissions. AITApod.com. Can't get enough of it. And we'll see you next Monday morning.
Bye.